okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I am absolutely thrilled, humbled, and honored to be here with you today. When I speak in front of people, I will always begin with two things. And some of you know exactly what those things are. The first thing I will say to you is I stand before you today unashamedly, unabashedly, proclaiming Jesus Christ as my personal Lord and Savior.
Amen.
It is really important that we understand that the freedoms with which we stand and the honor with which we stand up for the United States Constitution gives us the freedom to worship who we want, how we want, when we want.
Yes.
So even though I do follow godly principles, which I believe we need in government, we will not force those principles on anyone. For Thomas Jefferson had it clear when he talked in January 1st, 1802, addressing by letter the Danbury Baptists who asked him a question: are you going to force religion on us as Britain did? The answer was absolutely not. We believe in separation of church and state. That statement has been misappropriated and erroneously interpreted for many, many years to say that God's people are not to be involved. Thomas Jefferson meant clearly with, we got to keep the government out of church, but not God out of government. So we understand that that was the intent. So how many think that we need godly principles back inside government? How many believe that?
Yeah.
Secondly, I will always honor the most important person on planet Earth to me. My queen, my CEO, my best friend, my pal, my workout buddy, the person that I would rather date than anybody else, which we have date nights every Friday night. And that is my wonderful, she's not my spare rib, man. She's my wonderful prime rib. And that would be my wife, Dr. Michelle, right there. As stated, I am indeed running for governor of the state of Oklahoma. And there is much more to our story, which I will share briefly with you to set the context of what I'm going to talk to you tonight. And my endeavor today is to prepare you to stand and fight like you've never fought before, to prepare you to speak up like you've never spoke before, to become what you've never been before and do what you've never done before. Because we're at a time right now, ladies and gentlemen, where we cannot stand back, sit back, and be nice anymore. It is time to speak up and let your voice be heard. My wife and I have been fighting against this thing called medical tyranny for over 10 years. Medical tyranny, if you didn't know what that is, it sounds like this. You must do what we say, including take a vaccine, wear a mask for the sake and the safety of humankind. You don't have a choice. You must take an aspirin when we say to take an aspirin. You must do what we say. We fought against that 10 years ago by starting a clinic called the Functional Medical Institute, right up the road in Tulsa, Oklahoma, with the idea, crazy idea, that God made us in his own image. And when he did, he said that was very good. That God made us with the immune system in his image. That if we fed that immune system correctly, we did not have to be fearful of anything on this earth. Imagine that dream. We went out with all of the lack of encouragement of our colleagues. They thought we had lost our ever-loving mind. But we stood up anyway because it was the right thing to do. I was asked back here a moment ago, do you operate within the same box we have? The answer clearly is no. We don't play in the box that we have because how many of the boxes we have don't work? We need to create new boxes. The way the founding fathers thought was to create a brand new box, a brand new country, something called the Republic. Now, as I stand before you, I can happy to report that over the last 10 years, we have suffered our hard knocks, criticisms, and condemnations. We were put to the test 2 years ago when this thing called the pandemic came upon us. And I, like everyone else, was shocked when I saw leaders, in quotes, stand up and lead with fear. I watched our government leaders lead with fear. I watched our medical leaders lead with fear. And I watched our spiritual leaders lead with fear. And like everyone else here today, I stood back and I was in shock because I thought to myself, America has never been led by fear. America is led by faith and hope and love and a belief that we cannot be defeated with God on our side. And I became pathetically disgusted. I looked at my wife in March 2020 and I said, we will not bow down. We will not cow down, and we will not kneel down to the federal government's tyranny. We will not. We did not wear masks. We did not close our clinic. We didn't care what people said. And people came and they watched TV in our lobby because they just wanted a hug from somebody. We opened it up. Even though the health department said we were violating everything, can somebody say, I don't care? Right is right, wrong is wrong. So we stood up. We thought we were doing good. We began to give people what they needed to survive, and not just survive, but to thrive. We didn't worry about the fear that was created by a virus. What we wanted to create was the confidence inside the human body to be able to defeat whatever came at us from the outside. And so in doing that, 1,000 people later, 2,000 people later, I thought we were doing good when nobody died. I called the news, the local news, where they actually had anchors that actually were patients where we were. And I thought to myself, they will surely air this story because this is for the good of Oklahomans. This is for the good of the humankind. This is for the good of the United States of America. I ask you today, friends, did anybody see that story on the news?
No.
You did not. 5,000 people later, I begged and pleaded, air the story. Now, 10,000 people later, nobody's died of COVID under our care. Ladies and gentlemen, there's something wrong with the suffocating, socialistic-driven propaganda by our media. They are lying to you.
Yes.
They are driven by Big Pharma. The government's controlled by Big Pharma. Big Pharma does not care about you, and we are not anti-medication. But we are anti-control of entities that take your freedoms away. Folks, we stood up to show people that we're not afraid. We're not afraid of anything like that because I understand what the Bible says in 1 Peter 1:5. The devil rolls around like a roaring lion seeking those who he may devour. You know who lions devour the most? The scared, the weak, the frail.
Yeah.
My direction to you today and my charge to you is don't be scared, don't be weak, and don't be frail. Be confident in all you do because we are being attacked right now by a Marxist, socialistic, communist regime that's trying to take away everything we are. You coming out here today is the most powerful thing you could do. Freedom is not a spectator sport. It is a sport of action. It is fought and wrought and bought and proclaimed with bloodshed. Patrick Henry, March 20th, 1775, said these words. Give me liberty or give me
Death.
Give me liberty or give me
Death.
Give me liberty or give me
Death.
Do you understand what that means?
Yes.
This was before the Declaration of Independence. This was before the Bill of Rights. This was before the United States Constitution. Who gave him them rights, that liberty to be treasured so much? Who was that? That was God Almighty. The Constitution talks about God many, many times. Sovereign being, superior. That is God. The Constitution was founded on the beliefs, premises in God alone. Now, having said that, we have people attacking God in these days. Understand that what we have going on right now is an attack on God from evil. We must not get that out of our minds. We must focus on the light rather than continue to focus on the darkness. My job today is to turn the switch on to get us to become brighter. Brighter and brighter and more loud. We have been taught to turn the other cheek. We have been taught to be passive and to just get along. Why can't we just all get along? There comes a time for peace, and there comes a time for war. We are at a time of war, ladies and gentlemen, and we must not ever bow down again. Our rights have been taken away one at a time, slice by slice by slice. We have people in offices and leadership positions around this world that do not know the Constitution. They put their hand on it, they swear they're going to protect it, but they don't know what it is.
Right.
They've never read it.
Right.
They've never looked at it, and they have never devoured it and let it become part of their heart. Folks, the Constitution of the United States needs to become part of who you are. It needs to become part of what you say, what you do, what you become. When it is, it's not easy, but it's actually pretty darn cool to follow that thing with everything you've got. That's why you're here. I see the flags you hold. Do we understand that the flag we hold, the flag we stand for, the flags I stand behind, and even the ability to look at that Capitol and have a place to call home? Do we understand that this is all obtained by bloodshed. I have been to Arlington Cemetery, and I have seen those rows and rows and hills of those perfectly lined up white tombstones. And I have looked at that and I begin to cry. I watched the ceremony of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier performed with great precision and excellence. It's one of the most humbling things ever. And I think to myself, who are those unknown soldiers? Not one, but who are they? Who are those people? They are the people that gave us the right to stand here today, to speak here today, to say anything we want, to do anything we want, and become anything we want. Folks, the Constitution is clear. You have the right to worship. You have the right to speak up. You have the right to peaceably assemble. We were told by our politicians and leaders that we couldn't do this.
Right.
It was too dangerous. But remember, we learned an example by looking at the BLM protests. Nobody messed with them, did they? You know why? Because they knew the Constitution better than we did. We should have never bowed down one day. We should have never closed one day. We should never open our arm up and say, because you told me to, I got to put something in my arm. Yep. This is not who we are as American people. Folks, we need to turn the switch on our light and say, you know what? Not on my watch. Talking about our families. Politicians have ruined this country.
Yes.
The party system has ruined this country. But the people have to get this country back. If we think for one moment that the people that have taken the rights away from us, one slice at a time, are going to give that back because they're polite and nice and love you and care for you. Can I just give you some advice? Get your head out of the sand and you know what, out of the air. Because it's not going to happen. You have to take back what's been stolen. It's not going to be given to you back lightly. You have to take it back and know your rights. When I look at the First Amendment, freedom, speech, religion, assembly, we can't have that if we lose our Second Amendment rights and give those up.
Right.
You must not give away your guns.
Right.
Because the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That is a period, emphatically, with no discussion. Why are we continuing to fight for what we already have? We need to just do it, period, and call it good. The Second Amendment must be honored or we have no First Amendment. When we look at the 10th Amendment of the United States Constitution, we understand we need to get this because it is not being honored around this country. Not at all. The 10th Amendment says, and I'm heavily paraphrasing here, that the powers that are, unless specifically enumerated or laid out to the federal government, reside and stay with the people and states. How many here are part of the people? Are you part of the people? If you're part of the people, understand that the people are more powerful than the federal government.
Right.
They are, and our voice needs to get loud.
Yes.
Our voice has been silenced, partially because we've been scared. Just as you heard the remarks by Thomas Jefferson, one of our wonderful founding fathers. Tyranny is when the people fear the government. That's what that is. When we fear the government. Folks, I don't fear the government.
No.
I fear itself. Because when fear takes over my life and your life, we've already lost. We cannot win any battle, any war, any fight with fear. Fear is a real emotion, it's a real thing. But folks, fear is something we must walk through because it takes great faith to walk through fear. Not when you know that you're going to win, but you know it's right to stand up anyway.
Yes.
Fear leads the way when tyranny becomes victorious in one's life. But oh, my friends, when you stand up and your voice gets louder and the government begins to fear the people, we have this wonderful treasure that perhaps we've not embraced, internalized enough. We have this wonderful treasure called freedom.
Yep.
Freedom is something that we must hang on to, for freedom was never free. When I look at what we can do, as I stated before, freedom is not a spectator sport. You've got to get involved. Be coming out here on a wonderful, beautiful day like this, the final day of April. We have an opportunity today to embrace today. We have no cause for expectation of tomorrow, for tomorrow is nothing more than mystery. But oh, my friends, freedom can ring today in your life because we understand today is a gift. That's why it's called the present. That's why I stand before you today with everything I am and everything I have inside of me, with all passion inside my heart. And I say, my fellow Americans, stand up now and never back down ever again. You must never, ever back down one more time again. Because when we back down, we've already lost. Folks, there are children out here holding flags. This is not about a Democrat-Republican issue. This is a people issue.
Right.
We have one of the greatest concepts of a nation anywhere around the history of this world. Do we understand we're an island of hope? Look at the north, look at the south, look at the east, look at the west. Look at what's happening. We are being encroached upon all around. People are trying to suffocate and attack us from all forms, even inside the state.
Yep.
Do we understand that today in our state we have 300,000 acres purchased by Chinese Communist Party
Yep.
right here in Oklahoma? We have a Communist Party, a Marxist regime trying to destroy us from the inside out, create division, divisiveness, without firing one shot. Folks, we must wake up, wisen up, and speak up, and begin to activate that thing called freedom in our lives. Because freedom says nobody's going to mess with my home. Nobody's going to mess with my family. Nobody's going to take my kids from me. Our kids are being indoctrinated by the day with all kinds of nonsense that has no business being in schools.
Right.
No business being in schools. What a crock of garbage. Kids in schools need to be taught how to be respectful people, to go to work, to pay your bills, to show up on time, to let your yes be yes, your no be no, to be good men, good women, to serve the community with an honor and a dignity. That's what school's about.
Yes.
Our schools should be taught about the government, should be taught to say Pledge of Allegiance again.
Yes.
Our schools should bear the 10 Commandments. Because when we teach our Judeo-Christian principles in schools, we turn out wonderful, kind, awesome, God-fearing people that love God, protect the Constitution, and honor their fellow man. That's what school's about. School's not about an agenda that's trying to be pushed by a federal government that loves you, that hates you, and wants to suffocate everything you are. School is about an education of life, and we're seeing it eroded away. Look around and see the young people around you. Look around and just look around now and find one. Isn't it worth it? Are you going to die for that child if you don't know them? Are you willing to put your name on that line? I have in my hand a pen. And it represents something to me personally. It might just be a little old pen to you, but I want you to know this pen represents something very powerful. It represents something that's in our hands right now. It's a pen, and a pen actually does something unique. It writes. It writes. It can sign your name. It can create an identification for who you are. This pen represents something. It represents an opportunity for you to sign your name. Sign your name on a document, much like those founding fathers did in 1775 and 6. A document called the Declaration of Independence. They wanted to be free from the tyrannical reign of the British, that monarchy that was forcing their way and forcing their ways upon them. They were willing to fight. They tried everything nice to do. They tried to negotiate. They tried to say, please, pretty please. Just like right now, we have governors all over these states who are asking the government, pretty please, mother may I? Come on, grow a spine. Realize we need to stand up. I'm looking for people that are willing to stand up for the cause of freedom. And it's not about politics. It's about being statesmen and stateswomen and representing the Constitution well. Do you have the courage to put your name on a line that says, I, Mark Sherwood, declare myself free from tyrannical rule of the federal government? Do you have the guts to do that? Do you have the guts to take this pen? Do you?
Yes.
Hey.
Who's going to pick that up? That takes courage. You got to understand that that pen represents one, but it doesn't represent one. It represents everybody here. You've got to have the courage to put your life on the line. Identify yourself. Be counted. You are important. You're awesome. God made you special. There's a purpose and plan for every single person here today. Every one of us, my life, as I bring my remarks to a close, did not start off with all kinds of fun stuff and games. I was born in 1964. My mother, at the time, was 16. She goes to a party. She ends up being incapacitated. Later turns out she's pregnant. Finds out my father is a 19, 20-year-old guy home from the Vietnam War. Finds out she's pregnant, wondering what to do. I was adopted, if you can guess. I met my mother before she went on to be with the Lord. I asked her the question, what happened? I want to go back to that living room discussion. What did that look like? What was that? Tell me, I want to know. She told me there were 3 options discussed. Generating enough resources, making it work to raise this little boy. Generating our resources to send you off to abort this life. Giving this life up for an adoption to a family that loved him. They picked option 3. But I want you to know something. They considered option 2. Why was it a consideration? Because evil has always been in mankind's heart. You cannot legislate evil away. But that was 9 years before Roe v. Wade. 9 years. Roe v. Wade was an opinion by people wearing black robes. Just an opinion, it wasn't a law.
Yep.
They gave that opinion. If it was 9 years later, that opinion encouraged my murder. It encouraged my extermination.
Yep.
It encouraged my execution because I am not born out of convenience. I am born out of inconvenience. But I'm grateful they picked option 3.
Yes.
I'm honest when I say about option 2 consideration because everybody has the consideration to murder somebody else. You can. That's one of the beauties and curses of freedom, isn't it? There's consequences, but that's one of the things we need to understand. Murder's a crime.
Yep.
But when it's given permission, not being law, good people stood up and did nothing. We did nothing because we acquiesced our responsibility over to the federal government and said they are more powerful than the people. And we allowed a trend, slice, year, decade by decade go away. And over time we realized, looking back on it, that was the worst decision we ever made. 50 years ago, come this year, 50 years ago, we let this go away for 5 decades. And now we find ourselves right here at the south side of the capital of Oklahoma, right here in Oklahoma City, standing firm and saying, we are not going to take it anymore. We are done with this nonsense. We are not going to go back and allow 50 years to go unsaid and unspoken. We have got to take our freedoms back and not go anymore to the opinion of the federal government. We need to stand firm for our 10th Amendment rights and all the rest of our rights and not back down one time ever again. Folks, we are at a tipping point right now. My feet are on the edge of this trailer. Our lives are on the edge right now. We are one step away from going over the edge. We are right there. There is all kinds of agenda to take over this country. I have seen it, I know. Folks, I'm encouraging you with everything I am and everything I have within me to let today be the start of a fire that gets lit up in you so much that you can't be lit, you can't be exterminated. Your voice must rise up.
Woo!
And it must be loud. You must get involved. You must share this convoy freedom of hope to everybody you know. Love them with the love of God. Respect them enough to tell them the truth. For faithful are the wounds of friends, but deceitful are the kisses of enemies. Do not tell people what they want to hear. Tell them the truth in love. Realize that you can't change everybody. When my wife and I decided to stand in the gap for people that we didn't even know, that may not even love us. That's where we all are, folks. We all have to stand in the gap. Right now, we have to stand in the gap, and there's going to be people that don't agree with you. And it's okay. But understand, you are standing in the gap for people that even don't love you. But there was a man named Jesus who hung on a cross saying, while we were yet sinners, he died for us.
Amen.
People are going to hate you. Stand up for them anyway. People are going to love you. Don't let it go to your head. Stand up for them anyway. Stand up for what's right. I see these flags. I look around. Let these images get burned in your mind today forever. Let today become permanent in your mind. Not like a photograph on the phone that you look at and you see and you can turn off. But make sure that you look at today. And don't forget, as we stand here on April 30th, 2022, remember where you are. Remember that moment. Remember the time. Remember the feeling you have right now that nothing's going to stop you. Remember that. You got it? You got that image in your head? You got it in your heart? Are you ready for that? You've got to burn that thing in there so much and so deep that nothing stops you. We got to be just like Patrick Henry. Give me liberty or give me death. Let me flip it for today. I've got to take back my liberty or I'm already going to death. That's where we are, ladies and gentlemen. My wife, Michelle, and I love you very much. We encourage you. We, the people must rise up and understand when we say, God bless USA, we have got to give our lives back to the God to say we are a nation under God, just like we pledge. Not a nation above God like we're trying to be put right now. There are people in our country that want to put themselves above God, equal with God. But we understand the power of standing underneath God is a power that cannot be stopped. May God's power rise up in all of you today. May His voice speak to you today. May He bless you, prosper you, protect you, guide you, and give you all the favor you need today so you can do everything you can for Him today, because today is the most awesome gift of all time, this thing called the present. Folks, we are right here, right now. Make today count. Make it count. Make it mean something to you. And let today be the first day of the rest of your life. The first day of the rest of your life where you pursue, you fight for your liberty, and you obtain your freedom once again. Folks, my wife and I love you. We wish you the best of everything. May God bless you this day. May He bless this state. May He bless your family. And may He bless the great country of the United States of America. God bless you all.
Thank you, Mark. One more time, let's hear it
Yeah.
for Dr. Mark Sherwood.